I'm Nicki Baxley of Nicki Hearts Cards, here to do a demo on how to make this shaker window card. We're going to be using lots of fun stuff from Kat Scrappiness. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and notification button for her videos. We have lots of new things from the release. We're going to start with this super fun embellishment mix. I'm going to show it to you up close because it is so precious. So this has little candy canes, snowflakes, pearls, some trees, little Santa Clauses. There's just so much fun stuff in that mix that it makes a really cool shaker. We're going to be using this die set, which is a mini slimline size, and it's called the reverse scallop. So we're going to use this as our frame for our shaker card. The pattern paper is from the pack of slimline paper called Ugly Christmas Sweater. It's so cute. So we're going to use that as our pattern, and then we're going to just use plain red as our backdrop to this shaker. So I always test my sequin mixes on the paper that I'm going to put them on just to make sure they show up well. So I'm going to put some of this on this red paper and show you how good it looks. Next, I decided I need a little bit of shimmer on this red paper. So I decided I would add some of my own with this shimmer spray. So I'm going to bring this up to the light so you can see how sparkly this looks. And with this spray, you do need to let it dry, so I decided I would use a little heat to dry mine. Mainly, I feel like this also helps flatten the paper out a little bit if it bowed up some with the wetness of the shimmer spray. So I'm going to show you up in the light how delicate and beautiful this shimmer looks. I hope you can see this, but this was a plain kind of flat color of red, and so it just gives it a nice little shimmer. Now it's time to make our shaker window. So I've die cut the frame, which is from that reverse scallop mini slimline, and then this is the acetate that I'm going to use. I will look and cut out a general size, and then I'm actually going to glue it to the frame and cut around it so that I've got the perfect size. Looking at the back of the frame, and I'm using some Scor-Tape to put along the edges, and then we're going to attach the acetate. You can use a glue to do this, but you just need to be very, very gentle with your glue, because if it squishes out onto the acetate, you're going to have to get something wet and clean it up. So I usually do mine with some adhesive that's double-sided like this, just to make it an easier cleanup. So I have it taped all around. I'm going to start pulling this sticky off, but I want to really press it down, make sure that I've got it even everywhere, and also that it's sticking to this paper. So this ugly sweater paper is glossy, so you really need to make sure you get a good stick before you undo your two-sided tape. So I'm going to get it undone, and then we're going to add the acetate. Now I'm going to put this in the corner of my acetate, and then one reason I do this is because I can follow the straight line, because with this frame you can bend it to where it's not perfectly straight, so it helps you follow those couple of lines and get everything good and square. And then once I've got it all pressed down, I'm going to go back and I'm going to trim the extra acetate off the two sides. Here's the finished acetate window. So now it's time to start building up a little pocket where we're going to put all of those fun shaker elements. So you need some type of foam tape. I am going to use a foam tape and actually cut it into small strips just because I am out of foam strips. If you have foam strips, this is going to be much simpler. It is definitely a little bit cheaper to use this Scotch roll of foam tape, but it does require a lot of times you cutting it in half. And in this one, I cut it in half and measure it and realize I actually really need thirds, which is quite difficult to do. So when you need something that small, just buying a foam strip is usually a little bit easier. You can see that is going to hang down below those little scalloped edges, and you'll be able to see it from the other side. So I'm going to have to make it even smaller. The other difference in this and foam strips is the thickness. So this is a very thin one from Scotch. So it does work for most shaker cards, but the more elements you have in there, the more likely you are to need it to be a little bit thicker for things to move around. So I end up doubling this tape so that I've got enough height also. So here's the shaker window with one level of foam tape. I like to measure my little clay embellishments or whatever I've got in there that seems to be the thickest and the largest and make sure it fits. And you can see that fits, but it's right up against it. It's probably the exact same height, which to me means you need to add more height, because if you don't, all your elements are just going to be stuck back there and not shaking around, which is the fun part of a shaker card. The next super important step is to make sure that you powder the edges of your adhesive. This is so important because if you don't, all of those little pieces are going to stick to that adhesive. And I used to, when I was first making shaker cards, I did not realize that I needed to do that, and it was so frustrating when you put all these cute little embellishments in there and then they would stick to the sides and not shake around. So you need to make sure you do that. I usually make sure you can see I've got a little piece of something there on my acetate. I always try to get all that stuff off because the powder does make it a little bit less clear on that window. So I want to get any little sticky parts off, anything like that, and then I go back and it's time to fill the shaker. Notice I'm using a microfiber cloth and it's slightly damp. I'm only wiping the front of my shaker window, not where my embellishments are going to be, because I would be wiping off all of that powder. So if you have something major on the inside, you could get it off. Otherwise, I would just leave it. Now it's time to fill this up with shaker pieces. So I'm going to use this Tinsel sequin mix to give it a little extra sparkle, plus the sequin mix that I was talking about earlier that has all that fun stuff, Christmas funfetti sprinkle. So I put these two together, and now it's time to carefully remove your adhesive so you don't accidentally dump out all these little pieces, and then we'll place our backing on it. And remember, with this backing, it has a certain side, so we're doing the sparkly side down so you can see it through the window. I had pre-cut this piece of paper so I know what size it is, and then I'm trying to line it up as good as I can on these corners so that it fits perfectly. We don't have any adhesive on the back, and we also don't have anything sticking out of the sides of it. So here it is flipped over. Look at all those cute shaker pieces. This would be cute even if you just didn't put anything else on the front. We, though, are going to make a cute little scene to go on the front. So for this, I'm going to use the Dress Up Quokkas, and we are going to dress them in Christmas costumes. It is going to be precious. I decided I would make them both elves, so I went on and colored the parts of the Quokkas that we need in E11 and E13, so you can see those. The only parts on the costumes that need that are the arms. So I'm going to color the arms real quick, and then we'll go in and make these two little elves look adorable. I wanted to show you the color I used for the boy, which is E33 and E35, so you can see they're slightly different colors. I just think that gives it a little bit more interest if you do your Quokkas slightly different. I'm sure in nature they're not exactly alike. So I'm going to go in and color the boy's arms in this, and then we'll start coloring the clothes. I'm going to go in and color these little elf clothes. I decided that I would like to do green on my elf clothes. Whenever I think of elf wear, I usually think of the movie Elf, and since he always has a green and yellow costume, that tends to be what I lean towards. So I'm going to color this little guy. I'm starting with the dark areas, which are G07, and then I'm going to go in with my lighter color, which is G14, and just give it some highlights through the middle. I want you to see what I left white so you can kind of see a little bit better where this G14 goes. But I'm basically doing these in the middle of it, and it just creates a nice little highlighted look. So with the girl's little dress, I'm going to do the same thing where I come in with my darker color everywhere that I think that you would see shadow and darkness. So I'm going to do that all along the edges and kind of through the middle. And then we're going to come back in with that G14 as our highlight. And then I'm going to show you how I made it look like she had pleats in her dress. So because I left more open areas, I did come back over this highlighted area a couple of times just to make sure I gave it enough blending with that dark color. So I come in with it a couple times, and while it's of course still wet and got all this ink on it, I'm going to make the pleats with my darker color. So let's get all this blended with the G14, just kind of blending down from where it's darker. And sometimes I even do little dabs just to make it more random so it doesn't look like a line. And then let's look what you do with this G07. So G07, I'm going to create some pleats along this dress. I'm just going to do some little lines and try to kind of extend them up. I'm making them slightly rounded on the sides to kind of go with the dress and kind of look like the dress is bubbling out a little bit. So I just threw those in there, and then I'm going to go back, make them a little bit darker, add where I need to, and you'll see what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and do this tree because I did some of the same idea of what I did with the skirt and making pleats with this. I wanted to give it as much definition as I could. So I started with my G07 again, which is the darker of the colors, and I'm going everywhere where there's going to be shadows. And then I'm going to fill in with little lines that to me kind of look like the tree actually has little limbs sticking from it. So you see I'll do just slight little marks here, and I'm just kind of dragging some marks through there to try to give it some definition. Then everywhere that has white, we'll come back with that G14 and we'll fill it in so that you're not seeing white through all these marks. But I think this makes the tree have some really good dimension. So try it on your next project, see what you think. So I think it gives enough extra definition, so much so that to me it's worth spending the extra time doing this. So we'll see what you think when you see the final result. But I think I also think it really matches with what I did with the elf skirt for the little girl, so that it looks kind of cute and cohesive in the design. Where I come back in with that G14 and soften it a little bit. I do continue to make strokes, long strokes with my pen, even though I'm using this as my color in, just to help add more of that dimension and detail so that you can see it on the tree. I'll give you a close-up of that final tree. It's too cute. So now we're going to put the card together. I added a few Christmas presents and just made the scene go across the entire front. So I'm going to play a little bit with where I'm going to put these quokkas. I think I'm going to put the little girl close to the tree, one because her outfit kind of looks like the tree, but also just I feel like she looks a little cuter over there. The last thing to do on this is get everything either taped or glued down. I did decide to use glue on the front. I love that I can arrange things and move things around a little bit with glue, but you do need to be very careful on acetate. So I keep my glue towards the center of my items and try to keep a very, very thin amount so that I'm not squishing it from behind onto that clear acetate, because it will definitely show up if you're not careful. Look at how cute these shaker pieces look against that dark red background. It is so beautiful. I wish you could get the effect of all of that sparkle, but it is a cute little card. I'm sure anybody would be happy to get it. I'm so glad that you guys spent time today with me on the channel. Make sure you hit the like, notification, subscribe, and also check the links below for all of the information. You can find Kat Scrappiness videos here on this channel, and you can find me on Nicki Hearts Cards. Thanks so much, guys. See you soon. Bye.